Economic Forum, Klaus and Bigglesworth. Let's hear what they have to say. I'm not sure if this article was written by Klaus or not, but I think it pretty much sums up his ideas on the topic. A digital currency should be adopted as world's leading reserve currency, creating a geopolitically neutral and fair monetary system. Notice he uses the word fair again, has become increasingly urgent. I don't know how would you define a monetary system that was fair? Okay. I guess that's going down a whole another rabbit hole. We'll save that for a separate video. At the root of the problem are structural trade and current account balances that arise from the so-called Triffin dilemma. Now, this is one area which I would actually agree with Klaus and Bigglesworth. And you guys are going to love this next part. So make sure you sit down, buckle up, and pour yourself that stiff drink. Of course, the Triffin dilemma can be avoided and America's outsized influence over the monetary system reduced. All that is needed is a major reserve currency that is not issued by a national authority. I know a lot of you are probably scratching your head right now saying, okay, well, fantastic. That sounds like gold. That sounds like Bitcoin. Maybe Klaus isn't such a bad guy. Let's read what he has to say next. Gold was once supposed to fill this role, but couldn't meet demand for global liquidity and a store of value.
All right, everybody. Welcome back for another one. And I wanted to start this video off with that clip from George Gammon. As I've mentioned before, go ahead and give him a follow. He does the Rebel Capitalist Show. A lot of great information on economics and finance and what's going on around the world right now. So, but he does kind of these, I guess you would say conspiracy, but not really, because it's based on facts that are going around on what the global elites are trying to accomplish right now. But anyway, a couple important things to point out. This clip, right? So basically, the World Economic Forum, once again, is publicly calling for a need to have a global digital currency that we need to switch to, need to adopt. Right? And how they define this currency is a few major things, right? They say that it should not be issued by a national authority. And basically, as he showed in the clip, they argue that it's not going to be gold. All right. So regardless of your opinions, all right, these are all facts that they're saying, right? So they're saying we should have a new global digital currency that should be issued by a non-national authority and that it's not going to be gold, simply put. All right, so now we've gotten on to the point where we're trying to narrow it down. What is it are they talking about? Are they going to make IMF Coin for the SDR, or does maybe it already exist? Right? These are the things that people in the XRP community talk about. Right? There's good reason to believe at this point that XRP is involved with this. All right, it's not us just being crazy. All right, we're trying to bring the facts to the surface for other people to see. All right, instead of being one-sided or biased, you need to look at reality and what are they actually doing behind the scenes. All right, so if you do a little research on this really quick, you can see that this has been a topic of discussion for a while. This isn't new, right? So IMF chief suggests IMF Coin cryptocurrency as a possibility. So this is from June of 2019, but it's actually referencing an article and a discussion from 2017. So this has been going on for years, not months, right? So a global digital currency might be a future possibility at the International Monetary Fund. At the Bank of England forum last week, IMF Director Christine Lagarde hinted at the development of a digital currency similar to the Bitcoin for the organization's special drawing rights mechanism to replace existing reserve currencies. So this isn't far-fetched. And Christine Lagarde, who is she? She's the lady I've shown you multiple times sitting in the same room with Brad Garlinghouse and all these other global elite world leaders. Why is Brad Garlinghouse, the Silicon Valley startup CEO, in the room with them? Right? It's not an accident. Lagarde said that the prospect of a digital currency as a replacement for reserve currencies that are part of the SDR was not a far-fetched hypothetical. All right. Not going to read the whole article. A couple important things I wanted to point out, though. They said the development of an IMF coin will take some convincing. According to the Wall Street Journal article, certain IMF members, such as China, may favor the proposal because it would diminish the US dollar's role as a reserve currency. However, the proponents of the move might face resistance from the United States itself, which may be hesitant to give up its currency's privileges, right? Obviously. But what are we seeing out of the US now? We got this random SEC lawsuit that came up. Maybe is this a power struggle happening behind the scenes that we don't know about? Possibly, right? And Lagarde also mentioned, she said that the agency needs a geopolitical situation that is propitious. Okay, so the same verbiage was used in this World Economic Forum, right? So they said, as the risk of a US-China trade war mounts, creating a geopolitically neutral and fair monetary system has become increasingly urgent, right? So they use the same words here that were used in 2017, how we need a geopolitical situation that would basically bring this to fruition, right? And it sounds like we do have one now, right? We've seen this talked about again. So the article that was actually referenced was all the way back to 2017. As I said, a couple interesting things I want to point out that they mention here. Why might citizens hold virtual currencies rather than physical dollars, euros, or sterling? Well, she said because it may one day be easier and safer than obtaining paper bills. So in 2017, why in the world would a digital currency be safer than a paper one, right? Back then, people would have said, what are you talking about? But now they're like, oh, well, because pandemic, right? So I'm not going down a deep conspiracy hole with you here, but that's strange to me, citing that it would be safer in 2017 to have digital money. Anyway, moving on. They also said, for instance, they could be issued one for dollars or a stable basket of currencies. Issuance could be fully transparent, governed by a credible, predefined rule, an algorithm that can be monitored, or even a smart rule that might reflect changing macroeconomic circumstances. They literally just said that we would use a new digital currency written in code that uses smart contracts. That's what that is, right? Obvious what's happening. All right. And once again, right off the IMF's website, the SDR's time has come. Rethinking the special drawing right could bolster the IMF's role in the global financial safety net. Right? And then they reference crypto right away. We also saw in 2019 the spread of crypto assets and the launch of Facebook's proposal to create Libra, a global digital currency based on blockchain tech. Central banks are actively discussing issuing digital national currencies, and former IMF Director Christine Lagarde raised the possibility of launching a digital version of the SDR. Interestingly enough, if you guys haven't looked into Libra, that's basically what Libra is. So I really hope Facebook and Libra isn't part of this global takeover plan, because, man, that would be ridiculous. But what Libra is trying to do is basically become the IMF. If you look at it literally, by definition, they're trying to make like this one central stablecoin that is backed by a basket of fiat currencies, essentially. So if that were the case, then Facebook is going to become the global central bank in IMF. Please don't let this happen, all right? I hope this works out in some other way or fashion, because then Facebook will have everybody in the world's data and information and then also be their bank. Wow, how convenient. See how this all works out. But my speculation is that XRP is somehow involved, right? Because I just find it very strange For one, we've seen Brad Garlinghouse literally working with Christine Lagarde and all these central bankers. All right, what are they talking about? What are they discussing? I highly doubt they're talking about them selling unregistered securities. I doubt that that's the topic of discussion. All right, and then all of a sudden, as all this stuff starts to come to fruition, as XRP starts to take off in price, then all of a sudden you get this random lawsuit, and then the price crashes again. And as I'd like to show you next, some stuff that really hints at what I'm getting at as well. So this attorney, Jeremy Hogan, if you haven't watched him, go ahead and check him out as well. This video, lawyer discusses the likelihood or likely result of SEC Ripple and its effect on XRP. All right, Legal Briefs is his channel. But anyway, let's go ahead and take a short look at this clip from him talking about basically what he sees that the SEC is actually requesting come out of this case. So let's take a look.
Take a deeper dive into the actual lawsuit against Ripple. Now let's take a look. And what did I tell you earlier about reviewing a lawsuit? Start at the end and look at the prayer for relief and see exactly what the plaintiff is asking for. So let's take a look. Roman numeral 1, the SEC asks for an order that Ripple stops selling XRP. That is primarily what is being asked for. 2, the SEC asks for disgorgement, which is a gross-sounding way of saying giving back the money made by the sale of XRP. Now, who would the money be disgorged to? The buyers of XRP. Now, the third request is essentially the same as the first, and Roman numeral 4 is again asking for money, this time as a penalty. Now, when I read the prayer for relief a second time this weekend, something jumped out at me, and that is under federal law, you can request something called a declaratory judgment, and a declaratory judgment requests or asks for an order clarifying something. Like you can ask for a declaratory judgment clarifying a contractual provision. Immigration court, you can clarify an individual's legal status, or in this case, possibly a declaration that XRP is a security and not a currency. So I looked at it and I said, where's the request for a declaratory judgment in the Ripple lawsuit? It's not there. Now, understand that in a lawsuit, a judge cannot grant something that is not requested. The omission of a request for declaratory judgment tells me that the SEC is not after XRP. They don't want, for whatever reason, something saying XRP is a security. All they want is to punish or maybe to enforce the law as to Ripple and the other two defendants. In other words, the effect of a verdict in this case will be minimal as to XRP. In fact, it would have almost no effect whatsoever, except as to how it affects Ripple.
All right, so as you can see, he makes it very easy for us to understand what's actually going on. Tells us what you should always do in cases is go to the end and look at the prayer for relief. And basically, there's two things that are asked to come out of this case from the SEC. They want Ripple to stop selling XRP. They want them to give back money to investors. He specifically says that the SEC does not request XRP to be declared or not declared a security. So there was no declaratory judgment requested by the SEC. So that should be very telling, right? As he mentions, they cannot go back and add something to the prayer of relief for the case. It's just they have to rule on what was requested. So all of this information combined with what we already know, Ripple meeting with Christine Lagarde over and over, being at these meetings with the IMF, the World Economic Forum, know that they're tied in there somewhere. What is the outcome? Where does it fit in? Right? And we know that with this lawsuit, all that they want is for people to stop selling XRP, not getting traded on the exchanges anymore, and that they want Ripple to pay back some money to investors, right? But all of this combined, and with the IMF and World Economic Forum calling for the need for a global digital currency, and then with Ripple tied in with them in the picture, this makes me think that something has to be done with the escrow. So I think only one of two things has to be done with the escrow at this point. I'm thinking they either have to burn it or they have to give it away. They're going to have to give it to an institution or maybe the IMF per se. If they give it to the IMF, then this is over, right? There is no more speculation whatsoever. We know that this was always on purpose and that the whole point of this lawsuit was to be one giant smokescreen as to why they're actually handing over the escrow to the IMF. There you have it. Everything would be distributed just as planned. The IMF would have their SDR, digital currency, that it is not controlled by any one nation, with all the nodes decentralized, and that would just be like mind-blowing for most people, I'm sure, and you'd have all the Bitcoiners and crypto community pissed off, right, except for those that were in XRP. But Jeremy weighs in on this as well, so let's take a look.
And finally, one more super interesting issue. Briefly, stay with me on this one. This is good. My understanding is that Ripple still holds almost 60% of the XRP coins that exist. If there is a settlement or verdict, there is a chance that Ripple will not be allowed to release the coins as they have been doing in the past. And it's actually within the court's power to order that they not be allowed to release the coins at all.
So he doesn't mention at all them being able to hand it over to an IMF. I would actually love to hear his opinion on this. So one can get a hold of him somehow. But anyway, so he doesn't mention that they would have to hand it over to anybody, but he mentions that they could rule that they are not allowed to sell or do anything with it at all. And as we just saw a few weeks ago, David Schwartz mentioned how the XRP node validators, essentially, in the community could vote to burn it. So there's no doubt in my mind that this case is about the escrow. At this point, it's just going to depend where it ends up. That would be crazy if it ended up at the IMF as this non-national digital currency held by them. But we'll see how it all plays out. Obviously, just speculation here, but you can see there are plenty of facts and evidence to go surrounding what's actually going on here. I'm sure a lot of people would argue, well, wouldn't the IMF just create their own? Wouldn't they create IMF Coin? I don't see that at all, because for one, as I've talked about, the XRP ledger has been out almost as long as Bitcoin at this point. It's been tried and tested. Right, and we need this new financial infrastructure now. I think it's planned to come now within the next year or so. We're definitely going to see this start to roll out. And creating a new coin just wouldn't make sense. Trying to create some new ledger, some new system overnight, it's just not going to work out. What they're going to do is they're going to roll a new financial system into something that's been tried and tested for years. And what do we have that has that? That has been working with them all along. That's the XRP ledger. That's it, really. Stellar's tied in there some way, somehow. Don't know exactly how it plays out, but Stellar and Lumen are also part of this picture. All right. Hope that was informative. Very interesting video, at least in my opinion. So, hope you enjoyed it. As always, please like and subscribe, share with your friends and family, and stay tuned for the next one.
What is a cashless society? What does it actually mean in a literal or high-level sense?
Money will become like these, relics of a different age, and will only be found in places like this. In other words, hard cash will disappear. It will become electronic, transferred by things like these.
Then Tracy is in Beijing to show us what a nearly cashless society actually looks like. Ben, good morning.
Mobile payment transactions in China reached a cumulative total of 277.4 trillion RMB in 2018, ranking #1 in the world, according to the recently released statistical report on internet development in China. As of June 2019, online payment users in the country reached 633 million. The cashless society is now approaching.
When's the last time you paid with cash? Well, chances are cash has taken a backseat to the plastic in your wallet and smartphone pay apps.
Denver 7's Ryan Luby explains the digital pay revolution and why not everyone is on board.
The cashless society, the cashless society.
The cashless society.
The cashless society is now approaching.
The cashless society.